We have our first trade rumor of the year for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Kenny Atkinson has this team at 19-3, and yet rumors about the Cavs and Kyle Kuzma have come about of interest for the Cavaliers and other teams in the NBA. Hey everybody, Billy BB back with you, talking Cleveland Cavaliers basketball. As I just said, 19-3 on the season, and yet, of course, the trade rumors out there and kind of floating around with this team. We talked about the name Kyle Kuzma. That's who we're hearing about. We're going to jump into where we're hearing that from, what I think about it, some possible trades if it should happen, and what Brian Windhorst of ESPN had to say about a possible Kyle Kuzma to Cleveland situation. And I think what he said may shock you, and what I found deep diving into this may shock you too, as this rumor floating around. Be sure to subscribe to Cavs Digest. A lot happening with this team. Every time we're thinking, oh, they're just steadily pacing, they're just steadily winning, other things kind of pop up and come along, and that's why you want to be subscribed to Cavs Digest, because there is a ton happening with the Cleveland Cavaliers right now, so you want to stay up to date. This is one where I want you dropping down into the comments. I want to gauge the temperature on Kyle Kuzma, because before the season started, we talked about this trade, and yet I thought people were pretty split. So at 19-3, I want to see what people kind of think about this. I want to see what you guys think about the trade ideas I propose, and of course what Brian Windhorst of ESPN had to say. So jumping into this trade idea of Kyle Kuzma to the Cavaliers, it was Mike Scotto of hoopshype.com saying that Lakers, Heat, Bucks, Warriors, and Cavaliers are linked to Kyle Kuzma. I want to real quick start with those other teams. The Lakers, we do this every year. They can't trade for anybody. They're not going to get anything done, especially a $22 million player. So it's not happening. The Heat, Bucks, and Warriors, I could see it happening. I like the idea for all those teams. But Scotto involving the Cleveland Cavaliers into this idea of Kyle Kuzma coming to Cleveland and being a part of the Cavaliers. We actually just missed out on an opportunity of seeing Kuzma. He was injured, I believe, and did not play in Cavaliers Wizards. But this season, you know, the small forward guard, little bit of time at power forward, that's what you get with an athletic 6'9" player. Can grab some boards, good size on defense, not known as a defensive player. He's got good stats there at almost 3 steals a game. I mean, the biggest thing for me is if you want to trade for Kyle Kuzma, you're banking on a guy that finally gets on a good team and it kind of revitalizes him. We see this with so many players in the NBA that they get to a good team and it completely changes not only their attitude but their style of play. And I think that could be key with Kuzma getting to the Cavaliers, playing for the Cavaliers. When he gets to Cleveland, sees how things work, see how, like Draymond Green said, they're moving that thing. Moving the ball to Kuzma, having him move it. You'll have to buy in on defense. Cavaliers require it. Kenny Atkinson requires it. I mean, we know Kenny Atkinson says if you don't hold up your end of the bargain, you don't play. It's as simple as that. If you're not playing well, if you're not playing in our offense, if you're not shooting well, they've got options. And at this point in time, that is truer than ever for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Mike Scotto of hoopshype.com was the one, again, putting this rumor out there that Kuzma would be a fit. I don't personally think it's a fit, right? I'll just put that out there. I think he doesn't do more or anything better than the guys you have at the small forward or shooting guard position. Now, if you want to say that he has a better playoff track record than George Niang and Karis LeVert, I buy that, which brings us to my first trade idea, Karis LeVert and George Niang for Kyle Kuzma. Okay, Kuzma, 3 years left on that deal. LeVert's expiring and Niang has 3 years left. So, again, you're kind of just swapping, really, those guys' minutes for Kyle Kuzma. So he wouldn't start. He'd be really your sixth man and a little bit of time at power forward, which is what George Niang is. And if you want to jump right away and say, George Niang's playing really, really well. George Niang's playing really, really well. I understand. I do. But I've seen George Niang in the playoffs for the Cavaliers. I've seen George Niang in the playoffs for the Philadelphia 76ers. Both points in time, unplayable. Literally, benched. Could not play anymore. And if you're a Cavs fan, don't act like you weren't calling for George Niang's head last year against the Orlando Magic. So let me know what you think about that trade. LeVert and Niang for Kyle Kuzma. I think that's a good option. Other one is Kuzma and some more shooting with Corey Kispert. We're really just getting Sam Merrill twin for if you don't want to get rid of Niang. I know a lot of people like him, LeVert and Strus. That is what it is. Strus hasn't played, so you kind of replace that dependability at this point. But I want to jump in to what Brian Windhorst of ESPN had to say.
The first trade rumor of the season came through. Apparently someone linking Kyle Kuzma potentially to the Cavs.
I had not heard that trade rumor. I don't know how the Cavs are getting to a Kyle Kuzma trade. I'd have to go look at that. But I don't think that really helps them, although that is size on the perimeter. But they need size who can defend, and that's not really what Kuzma is doing at this point in his career. The Cavs have very little draft assets to trade because they owe so much to the Jazz. They are a hair into the luxury tax. I would be very tempted if I were the Cavs to get out of the luxury tax with the trade. The Cavs have all this money coming on their books with Donovan Mitchell's extension and Evan Mobley's extension and even Jarrett Allen's extension. So they're going to be a luxury tax player starting next year. I would prefer them to try to get out of the tax if they could, because that would set them better up for the next 2-3 years.
So there's Brian Windhorst on ESPN Cleveland. He hadn't heard the rumor. And number two, he thinks the Cavs would either be a buyout candidate and or moving into the luxury tax, which brings me to something funny. I did a deep dive on Mike Scotto, didn't know much about him, and I see a good trade option for every team in the NBA. So I'm like, oh, I'll check that out real quick. It's probably more on the Kuzma situation. Cavs getting under the salary tax trade exceptions to get under salary tax. That was his idea for the Cavaliers. So, I mean, what are we even talking about at this point? As Scotto himself, who thinks Kuzma's interested in the Cavs and that's an option for him, is more talking about the Cavaliers getting under the salary cap. And again, same thing with, as we said, Brian Windhorst, thinking the Cavaliers will be more focused to just get under the salary cap or maybe get a buyout player, not try for something big like Kyle Kuzma. Again, my idea is Niang and LeVert for Kuzma. LeVert's been really off this year. And it's becoming more and more clear. And again, I don't trust Niang in the playoffs. And then here, this is if you love Niang, go for Strus, is what it is. But interesting to see the trade rumors escalating for the Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't think this will be the last. You're a top-tier East team. You are going to be connected to trades. So drop down into the comments. Let me know what you think about Kyle Kuzma coming to the Cavaliers. Those trades I proposed, do you disagree with me? Do you like them? Am I going overboard on trade ideas? Again, I don't think the Cavs necessarily should make a trade right now, but hey, that's an idea floated out there. Now, if you do want the Cavaliers to make a trade, throw some names at me. I want to hear it. I want to discuss it. That's what you get. We'll discuss it more when you subscribe to Cavs Digest.